Let's chill, relax, and talk downshifts we would like to see in the Pauper format. Hi guys, welcome back to Casting Commons, the show where we talk and discuss all things Pauper. I am your host Teasdale, and this is my co-host, the gifted Etherborn himself, Reese.
An apt name. Very
apt. Before we start, do not forget to support us by rating us 5 stars on Spotify, following us on Twitter, for the most recent Pauper deck lists, and of course, subscribing on YouTube. So, are you okay? How are you doing?
Yeah, all good. Always catches me off guard when you ask that because it's not in the notes. Like, I'm just ready to go into the topic.
You got to make sure you're there, you know?
I am present.
You are there and present.
I'm just trying to think what's happening or what's been happening the last week. Our local Pauper League is coming to a close. They're basically closing out before Nationals. I think we've got one F&M left before we give away the last buy. But yeah, been good. Been playing a bit of Terra. I've been quite enjoying being back on the Terra train. Sort of fallen out with Mono Red. I try to give the Rally Red a go, but it's just not the same. And then the Madness one, I don't know, like, I did decent with it, and then I just sort of lost the love for it. It's just not Cold Author.
Nothing's Cold Author, but Cold Author. Yeah, but then you're going to play Bar and Terra.
Terra's fun.
2-3. Oh, I like being handicapped. I don't know. So, anyways, enough of that exciting things. We have got an interesting Pauper Thought of the Week. We are going to talk about cool downshifts that we would like to see, or cool cards we would like to see downshifted. For those that don't know, downshifts is a very rare thing that Pauper gets. Like, most of the formats don't get these. Obviously, they get, like, Modern Masters or Modern something or Print to Modern, where they can print older cards to Modern or Pioneer or whatever. But with Pauper, because obviously it's down to rarity, you can get at any point, but a lot of the time it does happen in Masters. Like the big one was Commander Masters, as you'll see with a couple of examples. Cards can just get printed at common that were rare or even uncommon or even mythic rare. I don't know if there is any mythic rares, but we have had a few rares. And they definitely have had a massive impact on the format. We've had Mortician Beetle, which is a pretty big one. That was a rare from like Rise, from Mono Black Sack. We've had All That Glitters, which obviously is now no longer in the format. It was too good. We've had Dread Return and Lot Left Giant, Cryptic Serpent, Gutter Snipe and Murmur Mystic. All were a part of Commander Masters as well. And then, of course, the best one, Goblin Dark Dweller as well for Mogwarts, is the biggest impact, of course. So yeah, so downshifts are obviously massive for Pauper, right? They're a great way to obviously inject powerful things into the format. Obviously, some of them, they're not free. Like, we've had All That Glitters banned. I think that's the only... Don't quote me on this. It could be the only downshift that's...
Is that what you're going with?
I don't know.
Bro's forgetting about Monastery Swiftspear.
Oh, Swiftspear as well. Yeah, that card's... Yeah, I forget that card. It's a lead from my head, that one. Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to basically look at some cards that we think would be our picks, I guess. Maybe not our necessarily picks, but they're definitely interesting picks, I would say, that cover lower tiered decks that could help improve the format and help improve decks, maybe, or just generally just make it a more interesting space, right? I guess is the best way to describe it.
I think obviously it's a massively open topic. There's basically every rare ever printed and every uncommon ever printed and every mythic ever printed. You could say, oh, this would be cool to downshift. Like, I guess what we've really tried to focus down on is either cards that would make an archetype that currently doesn't exist in Pauper. So like maybe an iconic archetype from Legacy or Modern that Pauper just doesn't have. Or cards that improve struggling archetypes, like struggling already existing archetypes, is sort of what we've went for with these. Obviously there's a lot more you could add, but these are basically just some that we sort of sat and brainstormed together. We've curated it quite a lot because we had a massive list of like 20, 30 We've got it down to, is the 9 or something like that now?
8. Eight-ish topics, but like obviously some of them do include like 2 or 3 cards.
Yeah. So it should hopefully be an interesting one.
So where would you like to start?
I think with your honourable mention is a good start.
My honourable mention.
I feel like it's the least. Well, the one we can maybe talk about the least.
Yeah. Again, I don't even know. It's not even my honourable mention. The only reason I wrote it was because you mentioned it the other week. But still, it's probably a deck that, is definitely associated with me. So the first one, which probably a lot of people do want, I don't know how good or bad it is going to be for the format. This is probably one it actually might make it miserable. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. And the suspense is there, and it's Witch's Oven, which obviously improves Cauldron familiar decks, right? I would like to say it improves cat food, but it basically just goes in most black decks at that point, potentially, because it's just a 2-card combo, right? And it's not like an infinite combo, it's just this value engine thing. So maybe it's just miserable and not a good thing, but it is cool. Cauldron, I don't know.
I feel like it would probably be one that would be miserable.
Yeah.
I feel like the initial response to it is, it would make Cauldron familiar playable, and that's really cool. But that's like the flaw of what it would do. Because then it would basically go, all right, so every single deck that plays black now plays 4 Witches Oven and 4 Cauldron Familiars to completely hamstring any aggro deck or any deck that wants to get through with a big guy that doesn't have trample or evasion. It now just basically brick walls all of them. Any deck that's trying to chip damage, where you just make a bunch of foods and a bunch of like little game 1 lose 1 triggers. So you're now good against those. Garden's Mirror would be absolutely horrendous. As they're both just Cauldron familiar each other. It's definitely one that has a very interesting flaw, but when you look at the ceiling, it's like pretty horrible.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything like that adds to it, right? I don't know if there's any weird combo either. Like, I haven't even looked into that sort of vibes, but it just that's all you need, right? It's just this inevitability. Maybe something like Cookbook might be better. I don't know. Is that so? That's sort of similar sort of vibes, right? But yeah,
it's really one Cauldron familiar to be playable.
Yeah, let's be honest, it is. It's tier 1. It's just unsung hero. But yeah, I wouldn't mind playing for a week, maybe 2. Next one?
I guess the first one probably the first one that actually came to my head, to be honest. And the one we're really going to start with here is Strangleroot Geist as a downshift. As basically a way to give Monogreen Stompy some tools that it sorely needs. Obviously, if anyone who doesn't know Strangleroot Geist, it's 2 green pips for a 2/1 haste with Undying, which is when it dies, it comes back with a +1/+1 counter. Obviously, a really good tool, aggressive tool for a green deck or a very heavy green deck because it's double green. Also works very well with like your Hunger of the Howl pack, is it called? Enablers, and with cards like Beogroth, so you can sack it and then it comes back and it's bigger.
Yep.
And then the way Monogreen Stompy sometimes goes is it's like quite +1/+1 counter, like reliant. Like you have a lot of stuff that feeds on other things having counters, and again, it goes with that very well as well.
Yeah, that's the thing that I do like about this card, right? It captures pretty much all the versions of mono green, right? So you've got like the experiment one, proliferate, sort of like smell fear style, and it works well with that because obviously it gets counters. It buffs experiment one twice, smell fear, proliferates the counter. You know, you've got the sack theme because it's got Undying. You know, it's effectively an extra young wolf for Biograph. Yeah, it's just all round solid card, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it would push anything that is already good to being better. Like, you could maybe make an argument for it to go in like Ponza or something like that, but it doesn't really fit what that deck's doing very well. And it's not like Modern where it's a combo it could be a combo card. Like we already have Young Wolf, and it doesn't combo with anything.
Yep.
So having another one, it still doesn't combo with anything. So you're not risking any like weird format breaks there.
Yeah, I think Strangler Geist is probably definitely the freest one that I think about for a long time, for sure. Definitely. Moving on, I guess I'm going to go here, I guess. Another sort of simple-ish one. Start simple, I think, is the best way. Ease our way into these downshifts. And to be honest, this one's sort of stolen from one of the PFP members, right? We've had Emma on here, and we sort of asked that question, right? Of what would we like to be downshifted. I don't know if we asked it on the actual episode or it was like off camera, but her card of choice was Gifted Aetherborn, which for those that don't know is effectively, it's a black 2/3 lifelink death touch.
Yeah.
So it is a 1 less mana for a Nighthawk without flying is another way of looking at it. And essentially, it seems like a good solid tool to sort of stem the bleeding against aggro if you like mono black devotion. You get to like play another sort of Cumbage Witches style card that's black, reasonable against aggro, you know, and then it helps you get into that later game to cast your Grey Merchants of Asphodels. But then it's also a solid tool in other black decks, right? Without taking it too far over the edge. Is another solid one.
Yeah, I think honourable mention to Vampire Nighthawk as well, which sort of also fits in this category. It could be either or. I think Gifted Aetherborn is obviously the better card because it costs less mana. But Nighthawk would be a reasonable one as well. Dice the Bolt, so it doesn't just completely block out aggro, but it's a good tool. If they don't have Bolt, it's really hard for them to get through, and it's a good aggressive tool late. Obviously, we're always talking about tools for mono black. Adding those early double black pips is pretty important, and staying alive really for that deck is its main feature that it's lacking at the moment, and Aetherborn does help that a lot. It seems like again a really solid one alongside Strangleroot Geist that basically is cost prohibited, so it only really goes in the decks that need it. Like, I guess Gardens maybe could look at playing Gifted Aetherborn, but again, it's not really free in there, and it doesn't add that much to that deck that it doesn't already have anyway. Yeah.
And I think like it is an interesting one, right? Because it is a solid card to obviously help. It's got lifelink and death touch, so obviously both good tools against something like Terror or something like aggressive decks like Mono Red.
Yeah.
Where you can obviously stem the bleeding and also kill a big threat. Like it's a double whammy. But then, as you say, it's so prohibited that it's not going in other like it's not you're not playing it like Blue Black Fae, for example. But then a deck like say Mono Black Sack could potentially play it, but then also potentially play the sideboard, but it then doesn't fit the theme. It's more just a reasonable-ish card, which again is not breaking that deck either. And probably there's a like thing there that they don't even need that type of card because they've got other options. You know, they've got Life Staff, they've got a million 1/1s that make other 1/1s to block terrors forever. You know, they've got a lot of tools against both sides of that, which is pretty cool.
The next one, which was another one that was alongside Strangleroot Geist, like one of the first things to my head, is Spirit Mantle, which is 1 white aura that gives enchanted creature +1/+1 and protection from creatures. Obviously, Bogles is the initial thought for this. Bogles struggles a lot with, I haven't drawn my Rancor or my Armadillo Cloak. I am now just getting chumped for eternity by 1/1s or 0/1 spawns. And Heroic as well, although it doesn't suffer as much because it has like built-in flyers and stuff. Also just struggles with being chumped for days. Spirit Mantle is a card that, unlike maybe more of the other protection spells, like it's more evasion than it is protection. Like it's not stop and removal, so you're not just basically putting an auto include in every white deck of this awesome enchantment that now gives you an unkillable guy. Like God, it doesn't make every guy a guardian in the Guild Pact, for example. It's it is niche to the effect, like to the deck that wants to attack, basically wants to make a massive guy in attack. And it's, I think it's fairly reasonably costed for the ability. It's essentially or similar to +1/+1 and trample, essentially for 2 mana.
I think the thing for me as well, the only thing that I can think it does stop is like obviously the likes of stuff like Crackland Shaman, which is also not a bad thing, because Crackland Shaman's very free in these like sort of like Affinity and Jump Wildfire decks. They sort of rely on Crackland Shaman to sort of mop up a lot of bad matchups.
Yeah.
And the fact that these decks then sort of have to pay respects to these other decks because of this card existing, to me, that's an upside, not a downside.
Yeah, and I think the Crackland Shaman example in particular is one of the reasons why the Totem Armors just don't really see play in those decks. Because they just don't work against Crackland Shaman. They just don't work properly. If the damage was all in one go, the decks would just play the Totem Armor cards because it prevents what they wanted to prevent.
Yeah.
Where this sort of does that in a sort of different angle, but similar effect.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think this is, and it's also a card that like if your game plan, right, is all about either Crackland Shaman or, I say, blocking to then race effectively, it's not like a card that like, you know, you can't hate out. You know, pretty much most colours have access to enchantment here. The big difference is it's a card that you now have to respect in these matchups, which is a lot. I'm all for that kind of thing. I don't like the idea of, you know, these free cards that sort of mop up a lot of things. So it's a pretty sweet one.
Yeah, obviously the guys still get edicted if they don't put it on a bogle. Like the heroic guy still gets hit by a removal spell. It's just a cool sort of evasion pseudo protection piece, because obviously the Crackland Shaman example, and it's like reasonably costed. There's a lot of this type of effect at a higher rarity, but they're like 4 mana, 5 mana, and you're just like, well, even if it was downshifted, it's just never going to see play because it costs too much mana.
Yeah. Pretty sweet. Moving on to the next one. I guess we'll go here, I guess. So I'm just sort of picking them out as you know, as we were and we want. So Sprite Dragon is the next one, which is a... Oh my god, I'm testing my memory here. It's a blue-red 1/1 flying haste, and then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 on it, and it's a dragon. So, sort of thoughts here was some sort of like, obviously, there's no... Most of the formats, right, have like a blue-red prowess sort of deck. You know, mainly like stuff like, obviously, Swift Spear, etc. in Modern, and... Slingshot, is it, in Pioneer or whatever the format that the cards are?
Yeah,
you know?
Slick Shot.
Slick Shot, that's the one. And most Eternal formats have like sort of a blue-red sort of prowess theme. And we don't really have that in Pauper, right? And I think this is a great tool to sort of enable that, while also being prohibitive to not just going like a mono-blue tempo deck. You know, or going into mono-red. It's not like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a really good burn spell that goes into mono-red. It's not a really good mono-blue threat. It is exactly that. It's a prohibitive card that has to go in both, while still enabling it, still being fairly easy to answer. So, I think this is a solid card, to be fair, and a good shout, that.
Yeah, I think one big thing you missed that is very relevant in Pauper is it's not just a dragon, it's a fairy dragon.
Yes.
So it has that sort of synergy as well. It is probably one of the more powerful cards on the list. It's very efficiently costed. It grows very quickly if you build towards it. But it's an effect that we just don't really have in Pauper. We don't have a blue-red aggro deck. And it would be cool to see something like that. It's quite a eternal sort of staple, from like blue-red Delver in Legacy to... like you said, the prowess in Pioneer, and blue-red prowess in Modern as well. I guess there's maybe other cards that you could fit in this role, but this is the more what's the word, like tunneled to that deck.
Yeah.
Like, you could play this in like a blue-red fair, but I think by putting red in a fair and play in a fairies deck and playing this, you would tilt that deck to more aggressive play patterns anyway.
Yeah.
So you sort of are doing what this card is wanting you to do.
Yeah, I feel like if you put this in like blue-red fair, it like the shell that we have now, it's sort of mid. Because you're very creature heavy anyways, and it obviously it works well with Spellstutter Sprite, and that's fine. That's a good addition. But you could just have Delver Sprite Dragon and Spellstutter Sprite as your threats, and that's fine. That's like a fine because that's then you going, as you say, into like a more blue-red aggro deck, because you don't want to be ninja in this, so it doesn't work with the normal stock blue-red fair. So it's like a pretty sweet. But then you also do get the addition of maybe there is another aggressively costed dragon, and you get some cool dragon tools that we've sort of got that don't see play. Not likely, but still an option. But yeah, it's definitely a cool one that definitely, as you say, tunnels into the sort of aim that we're looking at as the blue-red aggro, blue-red prowess sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably a good segue into the next one that isn't really a pick, is more just a thought experiment, I guess, or an idea about an archetype that's missing from Pauper, and that's Reanimator. It's basically an archetype that is in every other format and always sort of appears in those formats as one of the better decks, or at least a playable deck. And we just don't really have that in Pauper. Our only reasonable reanimation spells are Unearth and Exhume. So in terms of downshifts, my initial thought was something like Persist or Animate Dead. But you could sort of stretch it to something that fills the graveyard as well, so that Exhume becomes maybe more playable, or Unearth. Well, Unearth's sort of an awkward one because it's so restricted. But something like Entomb maybe could be quite an interesting one for Pauper. Like, it's not as broken as it is in Legacy. Obviously it may be too far because it's obviously a pretty busted card, but or maybe something more narrow like Buried Alive. But yeah, just sort of a reanimation effect. I feel like Persist is probably the correct answer for this, because it only hits your graveyard. It has a downside in making the creature smaller. It's sorcery speed as well. Animate Dead is probably too good. Necromancy again is sort of on the same thing as of Animate Dead. When as soon as you like hitting your opponent's graveyards, you're sort of getting out of the like narrow path that we want it to be a reanimator deck, and just I've got Animate Dead, I'll put them in my Gardens deck, for example, and I'll just kill your guy and then I'll reanimate it and kill you with it.
Yeah, that's a totally fair point that I sort of missed. Like, obviously, I wrote Animate Dead mainly because I was like, oh, it's the most interactable, right? Obviously not considering it, obviously Persist, sort of doing the same thing of negating its power of the card, but being your graveyard. Yeah. Obviously, I would think about it from a reanimator perspective, which I think it's both. I think you're probably right that Persist is probably more likely after obviously your points there. I do think both are probably okay, right? I think the removal's still better than the threats we have to reanimate. Like, if you have every single option of every card, like, you're still best things like what Crusher, Troll, all these sort of things.
And obviously a Troll at a 5/4 is much worse, or an Ent as a 4/6. I think the cycle creatures were my main thought of. We probably shouldn't say Animate Dead, because you're against your opponent, they're playing Stomp, the cycle and Ent, and you just get it.
Yeah.
Like, it puts a real cost on playing those cards, which is maybe not a positive. But also, this might be a situation of it needs a designed tool that is an amalgamation of these cards rather than one of them downshifted.
Yeah.
But I thought it was more of it's an interesting archetype that people keep trying to make work in Pauper, and it just doesn't.
Yeah, I think obviously the weird thing about the archetype at the moment, right, is obviously Exhum's our best reanimation spell, and as you said, land cyclers are just everywhere. So it just makes it even worse. Or even just natural discard is everywhere. Like you can naturally discard, anything you wanted to a blood token from a blood fountain or, whatever. So it's not free. Yeah. Pretty sweet. I would always like a reanimator deck, right? And it's always something you got to keep an eye on, like, of creatures that, like, cycle. Like, at the moment, it's, like, a lot of the time I keep an eye on creatures that you can cycle, that do something different. But, yeah, it probably is just a new reanimation effect. Because the spells have definitely, removal spells have definitely outgrown the threats still. So there's not many creatures on turn 2 that are that big that you can't kill with any sort of removal that's in Pauper at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there is more more options than the few we've spoke about there. Like, obviously we've got the 4-mana Late to Dinner that sort of saw a small amount of play when it was first printed. There's stuff like Unburial Rites that could be a downshift, potentially interesting. It probably costs too much on both sides. But the fact that you get to use it twice is not nothing. But yeah, it's sort of an archetype that I really miss being a thing in Pauper. Even if it's maybe not tier 1, but at least like a tier 2 archetype or a tier 2.5 archetype, it would be better than it is now.
Yeah. I think Unburial Rites is also an interesting one because you can then go down the self-mill route, right, as well.
Yeah.
Which is, again, just another option to make it somewhat fun, different, and interesting. There's only so many times you can get excited about Blood Fountain arriving, Crisis, and a refurb.
I guess it would maybe give Dredge extra, like maybe you don't play the Exhumes, you just play like the filter to get white and Unburial Rites as well as your Dread Returns.
Yeah. So there's definitely some balancing, right? For that. Yeah, it's interesting. The next one here is Dryad Militant, which is probably I'd probably say it's probably one of the cards I've wanted in Pauper for a long time, and I was really excited when... Can't remember the set it was with Slitherhead and Judge's Familiar.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, they're getting the cycle out, the cycle's getting finished, we're having... all these as common. Dryad Militant's going to be insane. And then it was just those two.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Was it like Ultimate Masters or...
Yeah.
It was a weird... One of the weird Masters sets when they didn't know what they were doing.
Yep. Dryad Militant, for those that don't know, is a green and a white hybrid. So 1 mana for a... I can't remember its type. I think it's Human Dryad, I think. And it is a 2/1 that... whenever an instant or sorcery card is put into the graveyard, exile it instead.
It's a Dryad Soldier.
Dryad Soldier. And it's if an instant or sorcery will be put into the graveyard from anywhere, both sides, exile it instead. So it's symmetrical. But the big thing is this is a graveyard hate piece for basically all of Pauper. At the moment, all of the graveyard interactions mostly are instant or sorcery. So it's like a lot of like Archaeomancer loops, Ephemerate Lupin, all that's gone. It's at least you've got a reasonable hate piece. But the big thing is it's a graveyard hate piece that's not like Relic, not interactable in that sense, but also it's not to the extremes of Rest in Peace and Ley Line of the Void, which is just a net negative.
It's a weird one for the hate side of things, because obviously it needs to be in play for it to work. If you are playing against Dredge and the Miller Dread Return, and then you untap and play your Dryad Militant, that Dread Return's still there. They can use it. But if you play it turn 1, it's a really cool piece for them to then have to play around. They can still fill the graveyard with creatures. They just have to cast the Dread Return from hand if they want to get a Lotless Giant back. Like you say, it's a cool one for the colours it's in as well, for the mostly aggressive decks in green and white, to have answers to Spy that are just, I'm going to play a Relic. It's not anywhere close to my plan, but I need to do something. or the Fairy Macabre plan that everyone's going to, where they're just playing a card that they can't cast, and they hope to just have it in hand at the right time.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting one that will probably do a lot of good. White Weenie, for example, just having a really efficient graveyard hate piece that is completely on plan sounds great.
And again, it's another tool for Stompy as well that we've sort of touched on as well, like another aggressive 2-1. Obviously great against Terror. You know, they can't self-mill to cast Terrors, slows that down. Not necessarily a net negative. It's obviously one of the best decks in the format at the moment. I just think it's an all-round positive thing, and it just doesn't go in everything. Like, obviously, like, blue-white familiars can't just go, it's a graveyard hate piece, I'll play Dried Militant. Symmetrical. Yeah, I just think it's a really solid card, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yeah, it also, like, plays to an archetype that doesn't really exist in Pauper, where it exists elsewhere in Modern and Legacy, which is like a hate bears type deck, like a green-white hate bears, a Maverick, a D&T style deck. Pauper just doesn't have a deck like that. It doesn't have those tools. And this is one of those tools that would fit really well into the format.
Claw Rider and Thalia Downshift. Let's go!
I think even something like Even Mind Sensor, I guess, sort of falls in that thing where it's maybe not as much of an ask as Thalia.
Yeah. But Legends are getting printed in Pauper now, left, right, and centre. Give me Thalia.
Our final pick is one that I've been hyped on for a long time. We've sort of made it a collection of cards, but one is sort of quite different to the other ones. It's sort of the same, but also sort of different at the same time. It's a bit of a weird one. My initial pick is Ancient Ziggurat, which, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a land from Conflux. It taps for any colour mana, but you can only spend that mana to cast creature spells. And then Teasdale sort of added on to this with two cards that are similar in sort of effect, which is Unclaimed Territory and whatever the courtyard's called.
Yeah, I think it's Secluded Courtyard from Bloomborough is the other card.
Yes, it is. So the courtyard and the Unclaimed Territory are essentially the same card, which as they enter, you choose a creature type. The land taps for a colourless just all the time. But you can tap it and add a mana of any colour that you can only spend to cast a creature of the chosen type. So although they sort of sound like they're doing the same thing, they actually function quite differently. The Territory and Courtyard, you need to be playing a lot of the same type of creature. You also still have the ability to use it for colourless mana, so you can still be casting things like Lead the Stampede, Wind and Wear, Malevolent Rumble, for example, or even just removal spells. Whereas Ancient Ziggurat, you just need to be playing a lot of creatures. It doesn't matter what type they are. They can all be the same type if you're playing something like Slivers, or they could all just be different types if you're playing something like a stompy aggro deck, like a multicolored aggro deck. But it doesn't add mana for anything else. So your Lead the Stampedes and Winding Ways and stuff like that are all going to be cooked by the Ziggurat, as perfect mana must come at a cost.
Yeah, and it's definitely an interesting one, right? There is slight difference between the Territory and the Courtyard. They're not that major in what they'll do. The Courtyard can tap a colour to use abilities, but the Unclaimed Territory is basically a Cavern of Souls that doesn't have the counter bit. That can't be countered bit. Either, but
so the Courtyard can activate abilities, basically.
Yeah, so you can act like I don't even know what has a activate ability from a type off the top of my head.
It's not massively relevant.
No, it's not relevant to Pauper from my initial thought, right? That anyone can utilize. But yeah, the big difference is obviously in a deck that has a lot of creatures, right? Obviously, Ancient Ziggurat is essentially an untapped. I can tap for X amount of colours, however many colours your deck is operating at. You know, for example, my first initial thought is like Dredge is a deck that's not like a typal deck that benefits really well from Ziggurat. It's an untapped all 3 colours, Jund coloured deck, Jund coloured land, which essentially could remove like the whole troll, generous end, search for your tap land thing, because you basically have your red sources there untapped and a ziggurat, and also then with holdout settlement you could probably just play all gold lands potentially. But yeah, as you say, it doesn't cast Rumble and it doesn't cast Dread Return, so they are real costs. As you say, it's not free. Obviously the Courtyard and the Unclaimed Territory have the cost of only tapping the 3 colours from a type. So something like Slivers get to still cast the Warrington Ways and the Lead the Stampedes, while having all the 2, 3, 6, 7, 9 colours of whatever Slivers they want to cast for free. But then you can also put that into another deck that's not very creature heavy, and it's not a massive downside, right? Is the sort of give and take. But
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me is Pauper is very much a format with bad mana.
Yes.
And I think Ancient Ziggurat, although it taps for any colour, maintains that bad mana feel. Like, it doesn't just go into everything. Like, even your example there where you're saying about Dredge, you can't cycle any of the land cyclers. You can't cast any of your instants or sorceries. You can't unearth your Scrapwork Nuts, because it didn't tap for mana for that.
What is the word on Ziggurat? Is it cast?
You can only spend it to cast creatures, yeah.
Right, okay. So it wouldn't unearth?
So unearth. No, you can't unearth.
Alright, okay.
So there's like a really big cost to having a land that taps for any colour. Whereas the territory, or even I guess even the Courtyard, the cost is so much reduced because you've got all your colour, and then if you need it, you've got colours.
Yeah.
Even in the Courtyard's case, like if you've got a creature with unearth, as long as it's that type, you can unearth it because it's activated ability.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's interesting, right? Because obviously now obviously you mentioned the red side with the dredge. Obviously, all 3 effectively, like that sort of example doesn't really work because nothing really shares a creature type right throughout dredge. Really,
no.
You do have the Courtyard, which is basically a free red source, but that's all it'll be. Is essentially just going to be an untapped red source at that point. But so it is interesting. They all do have downsides, but yeah, I get your point of obviously. It does tap for colourless mana, keeping your spells going. And
yeah, like the Courtyard in Slivers is just perfect.
Yeah.
In a deck like that, whereas the Ziggurat is it's perfect mana, but then if you draw your Lead the Stampede or your Wine and Wear, like you're gonna be off curve. Yeah,
it's definitely an interesting one for sure. You've got like you do have basically for Slivers, for the biggest example, which is kind of what we were aiming it towards anyways. All 3 are very real upgrades, and I do agree that obviously if I don't even know if there is a Sliver that has a. I think the regenerate one, the black one is that tap or is it black tap or something? I can't remember.
No, that's tap. Yeah. There is Slivers with activated abilities, but they don't really see much play.
Yeah, like obviously you could activate those if you really wanted to, with Courtyard, and that is obviously a strict upside. But yeah, essentially like they all have. It's like. My first example was something with high creature count, right? Is where the Ziggurat is obviously not, well, I wouldn't say better, but obviously good, like really good, because it's essentially you want to avoid. The big thing that we're kind of in agreement on here, which I think is really interesting, is Pauper really needs to keep bad mana. The biggest thing about Pauper is the mana is actually shocking, and it is the best thing about that is it's an upside. Because it stops everything being 3-4 colour piles all the time. And that's what you want to avoid. It's not a cost. Like, you don't want to get to the point where Modern can just, I'm having a problem with this. I'll add a 4th colour. I'll add a breeding pool and add a consignment memory to my deck because I can. Because it's free. We still want to avoid that. And keeping Pauper like that is obviously the best thing to do. And I think all 3 of these are... I think Courtyard is definitely the better of the 3, I would say.
I think there's very little difference between Territory and Courtyard in reality. I think they're both much better than ziggurat just because the tap for colours. And there's very few decks in Pauper that are a load of creatures that are more than one colour and that aren't the same creature type.
Yeah, I think Dredge was my biggest example, but obviously the unearthed side is the big thing for me.
Yeah.
And that's the key point in Dredge. The sticking point in Dredge is free. My point I was trying to make is getting away from that free red source. But obviously it doesn't matter anyways, because I can't read what Ziggurat does. But yeah, I think having better mana is fine, but you still want it to be restricted to what you want to hit. Like, if it is unclaimed territory or Ziggurat or whatever, they're still not seeing playing something like Elves. Because...
Well, I don't know, something like unclaimed territory would allow Elves to easily splash, or more easily splash a colour if it wanted to. Because it's essentially free, right? Because you can still cycle your Ents. You can still cast the colour sides of your Winding Ways and your Lead the Stampedes. Whereas something like Ziggurat, again, in Elves is probably one of the decks with the most creatures in the format. And a Ziggurat would still have like a lot of downsides. You couldn't cycle an Ent. If you just had like one land that was a Ziggurat and an Ent in hand, you can't cycle it.
The big thing I was trying
cast your draw spells.
The big thing I was trying to aim towards is obviously the splash cards generally in Elves are all spells, and also the very forest related. Obviously, we've got Quirion Ranger. It's not free to play all these cards. You still need to keep a high basic land count for all that sort of stuff. So, like, the point I'm trying to make is that these cards, either Ziggurat or Territory, obviously Territory being able to cast these spells, the colourless half of Wind and Way and Lead the Stampede, but are still at a cost.
Yeah.
Which is obviously the main point.
My main thought for it in Elves is you could use it to splash something that maybe wasn't an Elf as well.
Yeah.
Like you could use a Territory to splash like Mez Fiend if you really needed Mez Fiends. Because you cannot, like, you've got that out of, I don't have Mez Fiend, I'll just name Elf and it taps for green. And then worst case, like you've got your Mez Fiend, you use your black to cast it, and then it's at least colourless for everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird one. It's one as well. I think you couldn't do more than one.
Yeah. 100%.
I think if you just went all three of these are downshifted, like you would have some absolutely bananas mana based creature decks.
Yep.
Like there would just be every colour of every best creature of this type that I can find. It is now in this deck because I've got just a million free lands.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, if it was to be one, I guess my pick would be Ziggurat because it's the highest cost one. If you were really set on it seeing play, and were prepared to ban it if it was too good, I guess Courtyard is the answer to that.
Yeah. I don't think one. I do think you're right, though. I think it has to be one. And I don't think, regardless of the one, I don't think it completely and utterly breaks anything.
No,
my first
I wouldn't have thought so.
Like, the typo decks that we have in the format, like, we don't have... Like, Slivers is the only one with a real Lord. So nothing, like, really goes, as you say, goes bananas. They're just sort of less free. And it's not like... The good thing about them all is they're not Cavern Souls to the point where you can play 3 creatures in your control deck. It's free to play 1 Cavern Souls because then your 3 creatures that are all the same, like in case you're playing, I don't know, Avenging Hunter in your Gardens deck, you can play a Cavern Souls because it's then going to resolve. You don't have, like, it's not like you name Dragon, as you say, on Unclaimed Territory and it can't be countered. Like, so nothing is getting broken with that. You still want a creature-heavy deck.
Yeah.
Generally. Which is pretty cool. Which is pretty good, and it sort of fixes that Slivers issue and all that sort of stuff, because everyone loves some Slivers. Yeah. Pretty sweet. And those are essentially all the ones that we've got through. Like, we did have a big list.
We could go on forever, but...
Yeah,
we can't really. We're on a time limit.
But yeah, these are definitely sweet. I definitely liked the conversations around these and what they enable. Obviously, let us know if we've missed any points on them. You know, I don't know, Spirit Man will break something because it's combos with something, I don't know. But the main thing is also if you have your own downshifts and you're interested, you know what? This card will be a really good improvement to the Pauper format. Why don't you join the Discord and let us know your downshift wish list? Easily, link is in the description, and yeah, it's always a great way to join hot takes as well. Of course, we have hot takes, which we'll talk about later on in the episode, which enter you part of giveaways. You can also submit your own Pauper thought that we can then potentially bring on the episode and it will enter you into a giveaway as well. So please, just join the Discord. It's a great way to have a conversation with us. And of course, tell us how much crap we're talking and we've missed something. The fact that Ancient Ziggurat is busted and we're talking rubbish. Anyways, let's move on to some quick news. That is, we'll start with, I've already mentioned join the Discord, which threw me off. I had the pleasure, I guess, of collabing and recording with Common Ground MTG Pod, the second best English-speaking Pauper podcast, which they also agree on there. That is their intro. I'm telling you, spoiler. This will be out this Thursday, where we cover aspects of brewing and how to take that into consideration competitively. It was absolutely chaotic and fun, so you definitely don't want to miss out. And moving on to some tournament news, we'll just whiz through these. The first on the list, London Pauper Showdown, number 3, the dreaded return, 18th of October. The event kicks off at 10:30. Check out the link in the description. 25th of October in Leipzig, there's a 128 player cap Pauper event to be Germany's biggest Pauper event. That is going to be a sweet one. You definitely don't want to miss that. Moving on, Pauper Spezl, I'll get that name right eventually. Number 2 in Munich, 22nd of November, 64 player cap, have signed cards in the prize pool, token stalls, and an event sponsor. Check out the link in the description for that. And finally, the big one, 29th of November, UK Pauper Nationals is here. Secret Space, Birmingham. £40 tickets, £210 player cap. Top 8 prizes worth £1,000.
£210 player.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
£40 entry, 210 player cap. Top 8 prizes of a prize pool worth £1,000 plus. And the 29th of September is when the public tickets go on sale. So if you are a member, obviously you can join that and you know the spiel for that already. Let's dive right into the challenges.
Yeah. So quite varying in interest level this week. I think there's definitely some very dull challenges and some very spicy ones. Starting off with Friday the 19th, 50 players. So a pretty decent number for a Friday, to be honest. It's usually like the low 40s. But first and second place, a pair of Mono Blue Terrors. Third place, Mono Black Sack. Fourth place, Mono Blue Terror. Fifth place, Jund Wildfire. Sixth place, Mono Blue Terror. Seventh place, Mono Black Sack. And eighth place, Black Red Madness. Then the 2 near misses. 9th was Jund Wildfire. And 10th was Flickertron. Obviously, a lot of terror. Discover N taking it down as he does. Illuminati coming second, as they also do. The most interesting sort of thing out of this, like all the terror lists are basically the same. I think Campos in 4th had some slightly different numbers, but like nothing out of the ordinary really. He played one more spell piece. The most interesting deck for me, shout out to Weber in 3rd place, PFP represented with Mono Black Sack. Obviously, we spoke about Weber playing this list previously. And again, yeah, making the top 8 once again with it. Sort of still working on, I feel like, the numbers as it is, or it seems to be different, right, from his previous one. Only 3 Perigi Beckoners. And a 1 of Mezfiend in the main, and then 2 Accursed Marauders, which I think there was 3 last time. Then even stranger numbers, 1 Rights and 2 Unearths, and then 3 Supernatural Staminas. So really playing around with the numbers, playing fast and loose with the numbers. Biggest standout really to me is 7 draw spells. Seems like a pretty solid commitment to the draw spells in this list.
Yeah, and it seems not not quite max on the sack outlets, right? The sacrifice fodder, sorry. Obviously, the 2 link breakers and 2 shambling ghasts, sort of like the room breathe, still sort of stock on the 4 nested shambler because that card's quickly become the best creature sacrifice. Yeah. But yeah, I think the 7 draw spell seems like a good solid number. It means you can definitely keep up on cards because you've got all that fodder. And but the only thing is, I'm still not sold on Shambling Ghast, right?
Yeah.
I think the card actually, in my opinion, might be just too cute for the deck. Like, it does have them niche things where it can be removal, it can be like killing 2/2s with Perigee and all that sort of stuff. But I just think most of the time you just want more actual fodder. Like when you go Shambling Ghast, Corrupted Conviction, my guy, and you're like, oh crap, I've got no sack fodder. No, okay. Like, it doesn't feed the next village item. With 7 of them in the deck, you kind of want to keep that going, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think especially in this list as well, like, you're pretty light on fodder in comparison to other lists. Like, you've only got 2 link breakers and 2 ghasts. So you're probably 2 fodder pieces less than the most other mono black sack lists. As sort of a comparison, Hamuda came 7th with a very similar list. He's on 2 more sack pieces, on 3 ghasts and 3 line breakers or link breakers. He's lost a Blood Throne, I guess. But he's also up Perigee to the 4 as well.
Yep.
Still on the 7 draw spells. There seems to be a solid number. And then as a runner 1 of Reaping the Graves alongside 2 rights and 2 unearths. So basically no staminas for Hamuda. That is the main cost. And then the benefit is you play 4 Perigees, which is sort of stamina anyway, and you go back up on fodder.
Yeah, out of the 2, I definitely would prefer Hamuda's list, right? I think 4 Beckoners is just too good not to run. Yeah. However, I do think stamina, like, I think the real power in Beckoner, right, is definitely with stamina, in my opinion. Like, the fact that card, the card looks sort of fine when you just play as a 2-mana dude. Look, my guy, I sack it, look, it's back, woo! And I sack the guy, get a little bit, I sack the Beckoner, get a little bit of fodder, or I let it go over there and sit there until I finally find 5 lands. Like, that's fine. But you do on turn 3 and you go, I play this, I stamina the Beckoner, I sack that, it comes back, I target this thing again, and you can triple, quadruple stack and all that sort of palaver. That is insane. That power level that is insane.
I've been testing this list testing Mono Black quite a lot. And yeah, my biggest takeaway is just 4 Beckoners, 4 Staminas is where you want to be, because that's how you do the most broken things this deck can do.
Yep.
I think looking at these, I would like to try and fit some Accursed Marauders in the main deck of my list. That's sort of my biggest takeaway from it. I'm still not sold on the Unearths either. They sort of just seem like they're either really good or why is it not just a stamina?
Yeah, I think it's a strainer, right? Because obviously stamina's really good if you have it in your hand there and then, but obviously when you draw the Unearth, it sort of basically reanimates everything bar Beckoner. And it's sort of like a pseudo, once you're mid-game, it's sort of like another sack fodder piece, right? Because you can just reanimate a fodder piece. Or if your big sack effects died, you can bring that back. Like, it is like a sort of middle ground. And I don't really hate it, but I think if you are running Unearth, you want to have the 4 staminas first, and then maxed on fodder that makes fodder. So to me, I would run 4 staminas and 2 Unearths before I run 1 Ghast, in my opinion. But I do think that's my opinion. But I think like the other stuff are really strong, like Infestation Shade, Nested Shambler, and Linkbreaker are all really solid sack fodder that I think they're just too necessary. The game plan, right?
Yeah. And I guess looking at like going off Weber's list, like you have or going off. I guess this list runs Hamuda's list runs 2 more, right? But going off Weber's list, you could cut the 2 Ghasts and just go a 4/4/4 of the other 3, and you're on the same amount of fodder.
Yeah. But it's definitely getting tight though, right? Those sort of lists, because you want a Cursed Marauder, you want all the sack fodder, you want 7 draw spells, you want max on Beckoners, you want max on Staminas, you want a right to consumption because it just might win you the game. And then
I think you can see how tight the lists are. Getting like Hamura's here cutting one blood from vampire to try and fit stuff in. I feel like that's pretty telling of like how set you are on a lot of the numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
Other than that, though, there wasn't too much to talk about for the Friday challenge. Most other lists were just sort of stock as you'd expect. Obviously, a lot of terror in the top 8. Sort of telling, I guess, but
yeah,
it doesn't follow through quite to the other challenges. So maybe it's just a fluke.
But then last week it had like 3 to 2 in every single one. So yeah. It's an interesting one, for sure.
Moving on to the Saturday the 20th challenge. Only 44 players in this challenge. First place, Grixis Affinity. Second place, Mono Blue Fair. Third place, Mono Red Madness. Fourth place, Jund Wildfire. Fifth place, Mono Blue Terror. Sixth place, Rally Red. Seventh, Mono Red Madness. And eighth, Flickertron. And then the 2 near misses. Ninth was Jund Wildfire. And 10th was Mono Blue Terror. I guess Red just taking the terror role in this challenge and just putting a lot of red in the top 8 for once.
Yeah, I find it really interesting, right? Because like the Mono Red Madness deck is like a really strange terror sort of matchup. It's like it's all draw dependent on who sees the most blasts post board, right? Is how I generally see that matchup. It's like a really weird back and forth. When I
just see it as really bad for red.
Yeah, I would lean towards it's bad for red.
Yeah. Like you both have loads of blasts, but then they have dispels and spell pierces as well.
Like don't get me wrong, it's not like unwinnable, but I definitely wouldn't say it's favoured for the red deck. But then my interesting thought is after yesterday, like the day before yesterday, after the day before's challenges, who then goes, I'm going to bring this terror matchup, like bad deck, this deck that's bad against terror, and hope that people just beat it up. And obviously it worked, like, but it's an odd one to me. For sure.
Yeah, obviously two were Madness. One was Rally Red. The Rally is one trying the experimental Simps back in the deck as well. With 2. Still got 1 Ginger Brute though, so yeah, he hasn't quite gone yet.
Yep.
But yeah, pretty different to the Friday challenge. But other than that, there wasn't really anything I pulled out.
No, there's nothing massively exciting, right? I guess the only thing to mention is Flickertron obviously did pretty reasonable here. Obviously coming, was it 10th on the Friday or the 9th or something? Yeah, 10th. Different player, but came 8th here. And they are playing Cryogen Relic, but they're not on the full commitment. They're on 2 Relics and 3 Muldrifters. So still got 1 Ephemerate, 2 Ghostly Flickers. Yeah.
All Eyes on Me has been really grinding this list as well. Like, they're basically playing it every single challenge. So foreshadowing there for the the Sunday.
Yeah.
Which, moving on to the Sunday, the 21st, 58 players. So sort of getting back up to the range, which we normally expect for the Sunday challenges. First place, Flickertron. All Eyes on Me piloting. Second place, the more weird thing that I definitely didn't expect, Black White Blade in second, just sort of out of nowhere. Mono Red Madness in third. Corgates, just making its annual appearance in fourth. Boros Moxite in fifth. Jund Wildfire sixth. Seventh is High Tide. Eighth is Mono Black Sack. And then the 2 near misses, 9th was also Mono Black Sack, and 10th was Rakdos Madness. So quite a lot to pick out of this one compared to the others. I guess, firstly, High Tide is here. It's just been completely absent from the other 2 challenge top 10s, which is pretty unusual. There's normally 1 copy there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's everyone stopped playing it before the PFP announcement so that the data looks really bad and they don't actually ban it. Maybe that's just a conspiracy theory.
Take it off.
Obviously, all eyes on me coming first after coming, 10th or 8th, sorry,
8th.
on the Saturday. So a bit of an upgrade. I believe, from what I can tell, the list is the exact same list. That seemed pretty happy with it, I guess.
And they've been playing the same list for quite a while, right? They're very active. If you are interested in Flickertron, they are very active on Twitter on their results, from trophies to challenges to paper events, I believe. So yeah, you can check them out if you are interested.
And then second place, Black White Blade. Who put money on that?
Definitely not me.
0 new cards. Just old school Black White Blade. 3 Grim Baubles, 4 Tithen Blades, 4 Lembas and a Blood Fountain in the artifact slot. 4 Skyfishers, 4 Hawks, 4 Familiars, and then the flex sort of 1 Thorn, 2 Akiba Gang Shinobi, which I'm assuming is so they don't instantly lose to High Tide, and a single Dawnbringer Cleric in the creature slot.
It's also like a Akiba Gang is just a generally okay sort of core Skyfisher impression, right? You just like pay 4 mana, bounce your core Skyfisher, they discard 2 cards, and then you have a core Skyfisher you can cast again. So it's not the end of the world either. It's like a long-winded way to Tithen Blade someone. But yeah. I don't hate this list. It's probably the biggest thing I hate is its mana base, but other than that, I don't hate it. Very much it operates at sorcery speed, right? Generally, it's got like 11 instants, which is basically 2 draw spells, 2 Thraben Charms. 4 Fanatical Offer and draw spells, 2 Thraben Charms is like graveyard hit and removal, and then 4 cast downs, and then a Fumes just to sort of catch all. It's like its instant speed-ish interaction, and yeah, sure. But other than that, you're basically going to try and bauble and Tithen Blade your opponent to death.
Yeah, to be fair, like we're seeing a lot of Terror, and a deck like this has a lot of game against Terror. It's got main deck Bajuka Bogs, it's got main deck Thraben Charms, it's got Tithen Blades in the main deck. It's a lot of tools that are good against Terror. Obviously, the High Tide list, the High Tide matchup looks pretty horrendous. Hence, that I'm assuming that Akiba Gang's in the main. There's also 4 Duresses in the sideboard, which I assume come in for that matchup as well. An interesting one that we've not seen in a while though is Divest in the sideboard. I wouldn't have thought there would be much need for that right now, unless it's just basically trying to snipe. I don't know. Spy, maybe, or Jund Wildfire and just snipe the lands.
I would say it's probably for Wildfire, right? Would be my first thought. You snipe the lands, but you also hit Chrysalis, and like Chrysalis seems like a big problem for the deck still. You've
got 4 cast downs.
Yeah,
It's not the worst. You've got I guess your blades are pretty poor against it.
Yeah, to like kill a Chrysalis, you've sort of got to bauble a spawn, hope they sack one, or bauble the other one, and then Tithen Blade the Chrysalis and hope they don't play anything else in the meantime. Or play enough creatures that you can Thraben Charm it and then all cast down. So you sort of have like 6-ish sort of answers to it that you have to kind of have there and then.
I guess the 2 Divest sort of add to the package of 4 Dust to Dusts as well, to basically make the Jund Wildfire / Grixis Affinity matchups like you have the blowout potential to just turn 1 Divest them, rip the land. If they hit the next 2, you just dust them away, like triple Stone Rain them for 4 mana.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Divest. I just wish it was more playable. Like generally, like it does hit stuff, but like as you see here, it's only a 2 of, right? Because it has a small window of when it's good.
Yeah, I think the awkward thing with it, especially in a deck like this, is generally like unless they've got the Chrysalis, like you say, the all creature card part is almost pointless because you're just gonna kill the creatures anyway. So it would maybe be a more like if it said or sorcery, for example, it would probably be a lot more of a versatile card in the sideboard because you could bring it in for the Duress matchups and for the Wildfire Grixis Infinite matchups. Where this very like you could bring this in against the elves, but do you really need to? Type thing. Or like those type of creature decks, you know?
Yeah, like a heavy creature deck, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty interesting. Always nice to have, I guess, these interesting tools that you can use, for sure. But yeah, pretty sweet to see the deck do well. I wouldn't, like, I'm quite happy that they're on, like, nearly max baubles and max Titan Blades as well, because those cards have both not really shined for quite a long time, so giving them the light is sort of good. But I'm also a big fan of the fact that there's been a Esper version of sort of like this deck with Cryogen Relic dotting around, and I'm actually quite happy that they managed to just admit that from the deck and just keep the mana base better and the game plan more concise, which has been really good. It's really good to see, for sure.
Moving on to the 5th place Boros Moxite list, which is actually quite different to the Moxite list that we previously touched on. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before.
Yeah, it was last week, yeah.
3 relics in the main deck is the first major difference. Obviously, pretty committed to, I do not want to lose to Terra Game 1. I'm just going to main deck my sideboard cards. It also is playing Rafine's Informant as the sort of additional discard outlet rather than the haste enchantment whose name escapes me. Brothers Bitter Reunion, that's the one. Which I quite like this idea. As it just slants, you want to be attacking, like, you at the end of the day, you're an aggro/creature deck. The Bitter Reunion always felt a bit awkward because you're like, you're probably giving one creature haste at the end of the day. Like, you're not going to give multiple guys haste really in this deck. Especially with your snackers coming in tapped. So I like that change. It's also cut the Luton as well. So I think it's basically the 2 reunions and the Luton have turned into 3 Rafine's Informants.
Yeah.
And then as we touched on last week, this deck is starting to add more cards that it can discard with profit. So it's got one of Strands in the main, as well as another one in the sideboard.
Yeah, I think the main thing is for me though, it still doesn't have a lot, right? You've got 1 Strands and 4 Snackers for 7 discards. So like a lot, I guess the biggest thing is it's got like sort of like awkward cards, right, as well. So like you've got 2 Makeshift Munitions, you've got a Dawnbringer Cleric, you've got a Strands, and you've got 3 Relics, which are sort of like, they're not discard card, like cards you want to be discarding, but they are cards that are very situational and not necessarily.
Yeah,
like,
if they're bad, you just bin them.
You just bin them and you put a counter on your Rafine's Informant, or you discard it on your Moxite and draw 2 cards. And it's sort of fine. So, which is not the end of the world for sure. The interesting card for me is in the sideboard, right? Yeah,
this is the one I pulled out in my notes. Which is 3 Crib Swap in the sideboard. Super cool card from Lorwyn. It's showing me a really weird one on...
Yeah, I think it's either Lorwyn or Morningtide, right? I think it actually might be Morningtide, you know? I don't know why. Got Morningtide in my head.
And now Scryfall is showing me a new... I don't
know why
I can't just show you the older version.
It is Lorwyn.
A really cool card that's essentially 2 and a white for a tribal instant that is a shapeshifter, or kindred instant now.
Yep.
That is a shapeshifter. So the card is every creature type, just in case that's relevant. I don't believe it's relevant in this list. But it exiles a creature and its controller creates a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter token with the changeling ability.
Yeah.
Just a hard removal spell, essentially, in white-red.
Yeah, I think this is, to me, essentially, it's like a easier to cast Unmake is probably where I would see this, right? Is where it is the reason why it's basically playing it. Like, obviously, black-white decks or core Skyfisher piles in the past have played Unmake, and it's sort of like that, but it's just easier to cast, I would imagine.
I'm not even sure when this was. It was in Double Masters it got downshifted. I guess talking about our sort of downshift thing, it's basically always been an uncommon other than Double Masters and another commander set.
Yeah.
But then before that and after that, it was always an uncommon. So quite a strange effect that is added to Pauper through Downshifted.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely sweet. I would assume it's for Blood Fountain decks, would be my first thought. Anything that's trying to, Writhing Chrysalis, Blood Fountain it back, Mer Enforcer, Blood Fountain it back, all that sort of stuff is probably where this would come in.
Mm.
Sweet card.
And then moving on, there's the 8th place mono black sack list that again I want to touch on because it's very different to the two we've previously talked about. But just before that, sort of on the same theme, you wouldn't really tell it from the top 8 or the top 10. Obviously, we've got 8th and 9th that's mono black sack, but there's a lot of mono black sack at the top of this tournament. Like, obviously, we've got 8th and 9th, but then 11th, 12th, 16th, and something else are all mono black sack as well. There's just like a bunch, like at the bottom, like missing out on tiebreakers. So very, very promising from that deck. Although the lists again are quite mixed up. This one that came 8th has 0 draw spells in the 75. Which I didn't really expect. It's basically gone, instead of draw spells, it's just playing Sadistically and Snuff Out. So just two completely different things. Obviously, Sadistically means it can combo off or do like bonkers looking things a lot harder. It's still got staminas, but it doesn't have any of the familiars. So it's sort of losing the combo potential of the familiar and the stamina in favour of the Sadistically. But yeah, I'm sort of not sure on this. Like, the not playing any draw spells seems strange to me.
Yeah, it seems very odd. Sadistically sort of like has seen playing like lists, but never to me as this hardcore committed 4 of with no draw spells. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting. It definitely stacks up, right? Like, obviously any creature you sacrifice adds 2 counters onto your Carrion Feeder or your Mortician Beetle if you put it on that. You can also just put it on something innocuous that then makes
a squirrel token.
A squirrel token. Or a insect. Black and green insect.
But yeah, like the main gain in my eyes from this list is the Snuff Outs, but I'm not really sure where you need that. Like, against Terror, you've got a million chumpers and your guys just go miles bigger than their guys. Same against like Chrysalis decks, like your guys just miles bigger than the Chrysalis. I'm not really sure where Snuff Out is the card that you need.
Yeah, I think obviously I'm only assuming here that the idea is it's just a straight up like sort of aggro deck, right? Hope to draw better and use Snuff Out to clear the way instead of drawing more stuff. But I don't know if that is better than draw spells.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Or Beckoner.
Or Beckoner. But
because you could just put Beckoners in instead of the Snuff Outs.
Yeah.
It's sort of gone down the route that you suggested though with the no Shambling Gas. It's just full 4s. Basically, every creature's a 4-up bar 3 Curse Marauder.
Yeah.
And there's no Shambling Gas, no Mez Fiends, nothing like that. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, sure. Hamuda came in 9th with sort of his looks like almost the exact same list, right? I'm not going through all the one-offs in the sideboard, but it looks like the same
I think
list.
even at the sideboard, it's the same, yeah.
Yeah, I would assume it was, but there's so many one-offs in mono black that generally I just don't even bother looking anymore. But yeah, it's definitely been a good week for mono black for sure.
Yeah, it definitely has sort of. I think for a while it's been much more of a fringe deck.
Yeah.
But I think with Perigee in particular, it has cemented the deck as at least a tier 2 solid contender for the format.
Yeah, definitely. Any other decks to mention?
No, I don't think so.
I just want to shout out Masa Siok. I can always never, or Maka Siok. I can never say the name right. They are a regular listener and do, if you want to, they tag us on Twitter every time they post results and we obviously retweet them. So always a good shout out. And they are doing the correct choice They're doing the correct choice of playing Glorious Gale in their sideboard, which is
And
the
the
correct...
Colgate sideboard, yeah.
Yeah, in the Colgate sideboard, the correct thing to do if you're playing an Essence Scatter effect.
Yeah. I think, honestly, now it's just going to be even more correct as Spider-Man comes into the format and dumps loads and loads of legends. Like, it's just free now. Especially in something like Colgate where the ring tempting you is, like, not irrelevant because it makes you guys harder to block. You've got a lot of small guys that you can just chip damage in with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. 2 envelops in the main as well, which is a neat one.
For sure. Moving on to hot takes from last week.
Yeah. The first listener hot take from last week was from Aftershock, and it was that Mono Blue Terror would get 10 top 8 places over the weekend, and I don't think it did right. It got a lot, but not 10.
No, I think it got a lot, obviously, to start with, right? It got 3 or 4.
5. Yeah, it got 4, then 1.
Yeah.
Then none.
So you just got the
and then
5,
a 10th as well. So yeah, very, very dominant Friday, but sort of a bit missing from the rest of the week.
Definitely. The next listener one is from Addicted to Soda, and that was that Red Tron will top 8 a challenge. Unfortunately, we had a lot of Tron.
Partially right.
But it was not mono
It
red.
plays a red card.
But yeah, unfortunately not mono red or red Tron. Unfortunately.
My hot take from last week was that Terra would be a card from Terra will be considered for a banning in the next PFP update. We have not had that yet. It is coming soon, TM. So I'll put that next to High Tide will not be banned. And we'll touch up on that at some point.
Yeah, probably most likely either next week or the week after.
Yeah, it should be in the next 2 weeks, right? If we go off what Gavin's told us, but you never know.
You don't know when early October is, I guess.
Yeah.
The last, my hot take from last week, which is the last one, was Spy will make a massive resurgence due to Terra being everywhere, and that did not happen. No Spy walls to be seen in the top 10. I didn't even check if there were any in the top 16, but I don't think it was really anywhere.
It's quite strange, really, because it's still, like, if you look on stuff like top 8 and that, like, the percentage of it being played at various events is still around about what it has been since it sort of broke out.
Yep.
But it's just not in challenges anymore at all. It's just all leagues and, like, paper events.
There was one Balustrade Spy deck in all 3 challenges, and it came 26th on the Saturday.
Yeah. Mad.
Mental.
I feel like that means it's probably safe from a ban at this next announcement.
Yeah.
Hot takes for next week. The first listener hot take is from PG Brewing, which is at Spider-Man Webslinger, whose other name is Darval, whose web protects. That's definitely not going to get annoying saying 2 names for 1 card. Will top 8 next week. Seems not a unreasonable one. Like, it's probably one of the most hyped cards from the set for Pauper. But
you know what the problem with that is? As I've said many, many times, white weenie players are stubborn as fuck. They don't like new cards. I
don't think it's that good.
Yeah, but true. That is also the true. They don't even test them half the time. They just don't even play them. They're like, nah, I just like my own deck how it is. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The next one from Aussie, which is Spider X or Chizak the Apex Arachnosaur, will top 8 in a challenge, which is another interesting card, another legendary creature, big colossal Dreadmaw with Ward 2.
Stompy top 8.
And then Doom and Gloom over
here.
here. Probably. Yeah. And then Doom and Gloom over here has got a hot take.
Well, I think you should do yours first, because it sort of ties into those.
Yeah, so mine is also another new card, will top 8, and mine is the new Venom, or Tethex, the Gift of Malice, will top 8 next week, which is the black 4/5 Venom.
And then mine, just to go against all of these hot takes, and to go against Universes Beyond, is Spider-Man will have 0 meaningful impact on Pauper. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think any of the cards are that good.
All I'm saying is, if I see Jund Wildfire in challenges next week playing a Terminate instead of a Cast Down, that counts as meaningful impact. We're calling it now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. Obviously, the comments were they weren't supposed to be in the set, and you look through them, and it's like these have just been added to make draft playable and nothing else.
Yeah. But then, in the same side of things, not that I think that anything is, things that are just sort of added in last minute.
Lack of testing, more potential to be broken, you know. I don't think there's anything broken in this set, just FYI, but yeah. Apart from Venom. Venom's cracked. Anything else to add? No, that's it from me.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for the continued support. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please don't forget to share it with your friends, your family, your local Pauper community, and also join our Discord as well. But do not forget to tell your line manager all about us, and for a pay rise, you probably deserve it. That is all from us at Casting Commons. Until next time, and don't forget to stay hydrated. Peace!
Bye.